All right. All right. We're ready to rock and roll. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend and twin brother, Mr. Doug Adams, Assistant Governor for East Hawaii. Go for it, Doug.
Thank you, Benson. And we already know who got the best of the looks. It clearly wasn't me. We were two different mothers. So um, I'm really happy to be here. And I know that I stand between you and the end of spring training assembly for 3 weeks. But this, as everyone who talks about any particular subject will tell you, this is the most important thing you're going to learn today. Obviously, I actually don't necessarily believe that because I think that all of them are important, and I think that part of how we make Rotary work, the reason that wheel behind me works so well is because it's all attached together. The wheel doesn't work; it doesn't roll if it's not moving. So it only moves. So yes, what we're going to talk about today is important, club administration. And part of what I've tried to do with it is also connect it with other aspects of the club. So we see how the connections work as well. I'm going to do something also that you're never supposed to do. I'm going to tell you that that the presentation you're about to see is mostly words. And so we'll work through that. I will try not necessarily to take up all the time just reading what's on the slide and get to an opportunity so we can actually have a conversation. So having said that, let me do the old share screen. Okay, and put it in the presentation. How am I doing, Benson? You're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, we got it. We got it, Doug. Looking good.
Okay, great. All right, so as you could see, the very first thing has to do, this comes from Rotary International. It talks about the responsibilities of the chair. We'll talk a little bit more about this as well. And you have obviously the general side of things that most everybody else has. We'll talk about those briefly. And then the administration committee, administration, whenever you see that. And frankly, it's talking about who else you're helping in the process. So we'll move on from there, but that is what the job description says when you go to it. All righty. So let me go to this thing right there. There we go. So in the sample committee structure, we see the variety of committees, club administration, membership, public image, service projects, and Rotary Foundation. Those are, of course, in addition to our officer positions of president, secretary, and treasurer, and then whatever else has been included. But these are the standard committees, and of course, other committees can be added, but that's what we're talking about when we do this. And then you've got the variety of potential subcommittees in each of these that are also possible. And we'll address some of these as we walk through. But important probably to understand the context of the committee structure as well. And I think you probably have gone through that probably as recently as the last hour or so. All right. All right, so let's talk about the committee briefly. Responsibilities, help the committee. We're going to develop goals that are going to be in concert with the club's goals. We're responsible for the weekly and special programs, but we'll talk a little bit about what that actually means in real life. The bulletin and the website, to help with attendance, promote fellowship, which is actually a key part of the actual operation of the club, yet it kind of gets short shrift from time to time. And then a variety of other activities, which is always the line in there. If you're the president and you're looking for somebody to do something, typically you'll turn to your club administrator to help you with that. In the process itself, there's a delegation of tasks typically for the chair to do. You're looking to pair new and experienced members together. This is pretty standard work. You're working with other clubs to see what works for them. And if you're having particular issues or they are, then you can kind of share what solutions might be. Obviously, we're working with the district in terms of the training, something like this, the activities and the meetings that districts have as well. We are sharing our resources where we can. The board meetings is a good place for the ability to coordinate with the other committees as well. And then, as we talked about, setting goals that support the strategic plan and then implementing the goals through an action plan. And I stole this from Benson. The idea of any plan and the implementation of that is who's doing it, when are they going to get the job done by, how are you going to measure whether that's occurring, what are the resources that you need, your ability to assess as you go along, and then adjust as a part of that. So that doesn't make a really nice acronym. If I thought about it a little bit more, then maybe I would have come up with one. But this is designed to make sure that we do talk about who, by when, how you know, is there stuff you need, and then always kind of checking yourself and fix and tweaking as you go along. All right, so let's turn to the chair. So the chair has responsibility, obviously, to oversee committee functions. Depending on the size of the club, that's going to be either the chair specifically, or there will be elements in the committee. And so this committee has, if you're working service projects, typically those things are going to be divided up by the individual projects, right? You'll have kind of a chair for each of those projects. If you're maybe doing public image, you're looking at functions that are associated with the specific things related to that. In club administration, this is a catch as you can kind of situation. So you may have somebody that's working on the speakers and the programs. You may have somebody that's responsible for your greeter program that's also tied potentially to attendance or the name badges. You may have somebody that's responsible for setup. Whenever you have your meetings in person, as we did, or because we've been doing this virtual meetings, maybe it's your Zoom person. If you are in person, then typically you'll have a photographer that would be taking pictures of what's occurring during the meeting. And then also that individual might be responsible for making sure that you have pictures of the variety of projects that you're in, or making sure somebody else is taking them, so you're capturing that information. Nowadays, you have a website person, and maybe that's tied to the public image. And so maybe you guys work between each other to try and figure out who's got responsibility and how that kind of works, because that's such a large piece of how it goes. Figuring that out actually may mean a subcommittee that is shared between club administration and public image. And so all of those things are a part of the chair's work. When it comes to working with all of the chairs, the key individual for club administration, I think it's probably pretty clear, is going to be the president. President has an oversight of what's happening on a week-to-week, on a meeting-to-meeting basis. And the club administrator, a large part of that is because the meetings are such a big part of how we engage with each other, the club administrator is going to play a large part in helping the president achieve the kind of meeting, the kind of fellowship, the kind of engagement with the membership and our visitors that the president is looking to get. The other piece of this is how do you know what you're supposed to do? If you'll see here, the Learning Center, Rotary International's, the myrotary.org has their Learning Center, and that's where you can find the information. The other piece is you can always go to Google and Google Club Administration. The most recent manual that I saw was the 2009 manual that was being used for the Rotary years through 2013. And then they went to the video platform, and so you can use that. The other piece here is when it comes to motivation, we all know that you kind of take a look at what motivates you and see if that's going to be useful. You can also ask what motivates them and use that. And finally, I like the third bullet. You find somebody else who's really good at motivation, like I did with Benson Medina. I'll just give you a quick story. So I'm being responsible for foundation. It was maybe the second or third year after my presidency. And I did club administration for a year or two. And then I said, sure, I'll take on foundation. And Benson was relatively new to the club. And I said, hey, Benson, how'd you like to help me out? And being Benson, he said, sure. And then I discovered that Benson was way better than I was at get people to release funds from their wallets and their purses. And so I did what any good leader would do. I gave it all to Benson to do that. And I came up with some artsy stuff, and that was really great. But when it came to motivating people, I found somebody that was really good at it, as you all know, and I had him run with it. So I always like bullet number 3. I think that works pretty well. The other thing that club administration chairs are going to be responsible for, because they're a chair, is the budget, right? So part of this is making sure that we have an understanding what the costs are associated with the meetings. So some of that's in the logistics piece here. And given whatever we're doing, whether it's in person, a Zoom, or a hybrid, paying attention to what those costs are going to be important, including the website expenses. And then when we have speakers and programs, we're not doing necessarily the travel as much, but there are times when that could be a possibility. But honorariums or gifts are part of that process as well. So make sure that you're including that when you're thinking about the budget. Oftentimes we're looking at socials because those are our fellowship opportunities, and there may be some initial costs, but generally, as you know, what we try to do here is we try to break even when it comes to our socials. We're not always able to, and so you may have to include that. But budget's an important piece of what the club administrator is going to be taking a look at. And so you'll need to pay attention and work with your treasurer and your president in associating with that. Here's the one of the key things that's always fun is how do you recruit a committee? And part of it's going to be, you know, what are your skills in some of the areas that the administration committee is responsible for? So we talked about a lot of computer and internet related things. So folks that have skills in that area, folks when it comes to the newsletter, folks that know how to write, and then knowing how Rotary works, knowing organizational skills, those are also helpful when it comes to filling out the club administrative committee. I would tell you the caveat here, at least in my experience, is that when it comes to filling out the club administration committee, that sometimes this is more difficult than some of the other committees. People love doing projects. They may have a particular passion for something, and so those tend to fill themselves. There's almost an organic nature to them. Membership, public image, folks enjoy those kinds of connections. Sometimes club administration can be looked at as the logistics side of, you know, kind of the soft underbelly, if you will, of the club. You know, the stuff that nobody really wants to know how it's done. They just want it done. Well, that's the club administration piece. And so recruiting for that will take all of your best recruiting skills, I found. I go back up here to bullet number 3, find somebody good at doing that. And that'll be very helpful. And then finally, when we're talking about the support that you can get, we are talking about previous chairs and members, and obviously your assistant governor, district committees, and regional coordinators are also very helpful when it comes to, you know, moving these things along. All right, lots of words here. I'm not going to walk through all of these, but I thought that there was some things that were interesting in here. And so this has to do with meetings. We all have a variety of things that are of interest to us. So you've got the regular meetings piece here, and you kind of can take a look at that. Effective meetings here. And then the idea of setting up. So I'm doing the meeting themselves, keeping them interesting and relevant. So I'll let you take a look at those as I chat briefly. As you look at your meetings and what has worked for you, I would encourage you to maintain both the context of the tradition of what your club has done, but also always take an opportunity to work with the president on, is there something that we can tweak here that's going to help us bring in other membership? And so looking for those opportunities to do on a periodic basis. A year seems like a long time. Everybody who's been a president knows that it's a very short time actually when you finally get into it. And unless you actually schedule things to occur on a regular basis in your meetings, by the time you get to February and March, you're looking at, holy cow, I haven't done this other stuff that I wanted to do. So I just recommend that the meetings, in addition to providing fellowship, in addition to providing the kind of the standard traditional stuff that we do, because it's a part of how Rotary has operated in our growing up in Rotary. I'd also encourage you to take a look at, are there things that I can plug in on a periodic basis and see how they work? It becomes almost an experimentation kind of way. And some will work, some won't. You get feedback, and the meetings become an opportunity that helps keep things fresh as well, we find from time to time. And then also, as a part of your programs, I would encourage you to include, and many of us do already, but I would encourage you to include opportunities, not just we use it as vocational, but sometimes just opportunities to bring in our own membership. Sometimes it's just hard for us to get to know each other. It's not very, it seems like, hey, we're meeting every week or every other week. We should be able to get to know all of our members. And you and I both know that's not as easy as it sounds. So actually providing the opportunity for folks to talk about their backgrounds, what they're doing, all those things as a regular part of your programs, really important, I think, for the well-being at the club as well. Flexibility, I was just going to chat about that in a way. This is about how you keep things fresh. We were all designed with a particular time of day and a particular day of the week in mind when we stood ourselves up. Every once in a while, take a look at that. Is that still work the best for the members you have, for the area that you're in? So those are of interest as you go through, a vibrant club kind of looking at things. We already know that clubs are required to meet, twice a month, but there's a variety of ways that can happen. And so there's a lot of particular conversations or content in here that addresses that. Also, the different types of membership, the idea of Rotary actors participating if you have the ability to do that. So all of those things I think we're pretty familiar with. The Rotary Calendar. Most of you know that we have a Rotary Calendar that each month, except for July and for May, actually has a designation with it. In some cases, there's a week involved. So in November, we have World Interact Week. In March, we have World Rotaract Week. And then in February, we have our anniversary. So these are all opportunities to actually touch on things that Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation are engaged in. And so as your president is looking at programs throughout the course of the year, making sure that you're incorporating these kinds of things, as well as your club assemblies, which we'll talk about in a moment, as well as the programs and speakers on any particular theme that you're looking to do. And all of a sudden you realize, I don't have enough meetings in the year. And so that's probably a good thing. That allows you then, you want to have more to choose from. That allows you to keep things fresh for the membership and for any potential visitors as you move forward. Assemblies, right? So assemblies can be used in a lot of different ways. We typically have seen them, we used to do them quarterly. We've done them a little bit more often now in our club. I've seen other clubs in East Hawaii that have used the assemblies in a variety of ways, to do them for strategic work, to do them as prep for large-scale club service projects or fundraisers. All of those are perfectly reasonable reasons to have club assemblies. Oftentimes you can have assembly just because you haven't necessarily had the opportunity to connect as a club in a while, right? And so you can have a club assembly that's fellowship-based. So all these things are part and parcel of how you decide to put together the meeting. So some of this may sound to us like, well, this is president's work. And in actuality, the president's going to have oversight, but club administrator is supposed to be part of the conversation with the president, to not put all of this necessarily on the president, but to have either the administration committee chair and or speaker and program individual point of contact. Those folks will help the president identify what it is that you want to be doing over the course of the year. It's not an expectation that you're going to fill out a calendar for the entire year necessarily, because you do want to allow for opportunities to strike when they can. But to the extent that you are able to at least provide a tentative theme and or identify when the assemblies are going to be as a part of the schedule, those are all good things. It helps with not having to run from week to week to week because you've already done the planning beforehand. And then there are some other things that the administration committee is involved in, right? So social events, typically you'll have a social chair and committee. And so there are opportunities to do this. This could include, we talk about Pauhanas. We know that Pauhanas also can be part of the networking and training event opportunities that folks do. And then obviously the service projects are key places for fellowship to occur. In some cases, those are the primary places for fellowship to occur. And so you want to make sure as a club administrator, even though you're not specifically responsible for service projects, that's a different committee, making sure that you're connected with what the service projects committee is looking at and how that's tied into the rest of the schedule. That helps the president as well in managing and oversight of the club. Finally, communications. So I think that when we started taking a look at websites and Facebook sites, social media activities, as a part of the communications with the members and with the outside world, that had traditionally been part of club administration. So now you've got a couple of different committees. One you might call the ability to provide substance committee, and then the other one that's kind of the technical organizational piece of that, if you will. And how you all work together is going to be really important. The best clubs are those that are tied together very tightly, but that have a variety of people that are doing the variety of things that are necessary to make sure that you're communicating both internally and externally. And so these are just some areas. A lot of you are very well aware of these, but they are important and they carry your image as a club and what you stand for, what your brand is beyond Rotary, you know, your specific club identity forward. So websites, social media opportunities, newsletters typically nowadays tend to be digital. The marketing piece of this is pretty important. And then of course, our internal communications and opportunities to talk with potential members as well. So these are some of the things that you might consider including. Obviously, this would be internal largely, although the recognitions might be something that would be external as well. So I have run through this. It took me about 20 to 25 minutes, and we still have about 15 minutes of opportunity for questions. I'm going to turn off the share so that we can see each other. There we go. And are there any questions that anybody has, or any corrections or modifications? Because I'm more than open to hearing that I'm all wet.
Hey, Doug, thanks. As you guys are thinking about your questions, if you don't want to see them or ask them out, you can always put them in the chat, and then we can deal with them. This piece of it, this club administration is a really, really important part, because for all the things that Rotary does around the world and throughout our nation and our state, it really comes down to Rotary is really what goes on in our clubs. And those of you guys who are familiar with Rotary, you know, there's 35,000 clubs all over this entire planet. And really what Rotary's real work and purpose and direction is all manifested within those clubs. So getting your club fully organized, getting members of your club engaged. I know it's been a little challenging for the last year, and when we started our strategic visioning in our club last week, one of the first things we wanted to try to do is reconnect and reach out to all of these members who may not attend now because you know, they they're waiting for the club to come back, into in-person meetings. So what goes on our clubs is really important. Our incoming district governor, Sandy Matsui, is on the call today. So I just wanted her to take a few minutes and comment about the importance of our club, her vision about what's ahead and what she sees in the next upcoming Rotary year. So go ahead, Sandy.
Thanks, Benson. Aloha, everyone. Thank you for being here in the final session of our 3-part spring training. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this. And thank you, Doug, for all of that great club administration information that you presented today. I think with the upcoming year, one of the things that is very, very clear, I think, to all of us is that we are coming out hopefully through the tunnel, that we can see a light at this end of the tunnel of this horrific pandemic environment that we have been in. And I think next year is really going to be a time for us to regroup. Life is going to be different. I don't know what the new normal is going to look like, but it's definitely going to be different from what we have been used to. And I think in Rotary, that's also very, very true. Whether our meetings continue to be online, become hybrid, or we eventually go in person, I think we're going to see the integration of a lot more technology in the way we interact with one another, but especially in the way we operate within our clubs. Rotary International has integrated a lot of changes just in their strategic priorities. And that's what you're seeing with us in the kind of training that Benson has been presenting, right? Our strategic priorities, the mission of Rotary International, the language has changed. The way in which we grow in memberships and our club development has changed. We're becoming much more flexible. And so I think we're entering a time in which everything needs to be more flexible. We need to be more adaptable, and we need to be much more responsive to our members and to our clubs. And so I think as we look at club administration, a lot of the things that we have been doing for years, it's wonderful. It's the foundation of Rotary. But keep your heart, keep your mind open, because things may have to evolve and be done differently while we maintain our basic philosophy and foundation of what Rotary is about. And I think that's what we're going to really be looking through. And next year, our theme, as you know, is we've integrated the word aloha into the Rotary International theme. So it's serve with aloha. Serve with aloha. So we really want to integrate lots of aloha in everything that we do next year. Not that we aren't already, but that's going to be a primary focus. Yeah. How's that, Benson? Anything
that's
else?
great. Yeah, that's great. Wow, I bet you're a Dale Carnegie graduate, man. You just really killed that one. That's awesome. So anybody on the call today want to make any comments? You want to talk a little bit about situation, your particular club, how you think things might be improved, or things that you're looking at, trying to improve, and wonder what or how you could go about it. I know that one of the things that we identified when we're going through the strengths and weaknesses of our club is that over the last year, since we weren't meeting in person, we lost a lot of our processes and mechanisms, right? Because we're used to the meeting in person. Somebody comes, you got a greeter, you sign in, you get the badge, you sit down. There's a new member, you get the new member packet. So, over the years that our club's been in existence, we've developed all of these processes and habits that now we sort of got outside of or haven't been keeping up to speed now. And now we're going to have to really ramp those back up. So we're sort of in this process where we're trying to learn how to walk again, or reintroducing ourselves to all these processes. So anybody have any thoughts or ideas about that? Want to offer? Go ahead, Janice. Oh, we gotta unmute yourself.
Unmute. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
You had said something about doing a hybrid training, because
Yes.
Where our club is going to be a hybrid club, and I need training.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave is wonderful, and I have some people that know AV, but I'd really appreciate a little more help.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to develop now, because when we say hybrid, there's a lot of different versions of what that looks like. And so
Mhm.
we're drawing all of those kind of versions together so that we can provide a couple of options. So I'm working through with Naomi and Sandy about when exactly we would do that, because I think
Okay.
we're moving into this sort of a hybrid uh, section of our time that we're going to end up having to do that. One of the things that I'm learning about hybrid meetings that I've seen people do now is that they have the speaker and the president, whoever's running the meeting, they have them online. So there, it's easier to sort of manipulate or to manage the meeting, and then the people that are all gathered that are in person. So it makes it easier for everybody to engage at different levels, because one of the things that we got pointed out in one of our trainings is that unless there's a way to engage the people that are just watching online, sort of a passive observer.
Yeah, you're going to lose them.
Yeah, there's just passive observers. So you have to figure out a way in which you can engage those. But yeah, that's a very good point. We're moving in, like Sandy said, to a completely different version of Rotary that will challenge us to adapt and work with.
I would
Okay.
just add to that briefly that one of the clubs that just has gotten it right is Hilo Bay. And I think that from a hybrid perspective, well, from the virtual perspective, something that they do that I like is that they actually provide time beforehand, and the club largely has done this, the members have, where they show up early, and that becomes their kind of talk to each other time over each other sometimes. They do that. But from a hybrid perspective, the opportunity for folks that are in person to also engage with the folks that will be on the screen will be important. We had a couple of meetings back in June or back in July where we tried to do the hybrid as a club. South Hilo did. And we discovered that having the opportunity to allow for engagement, we ended up doing it at the end of the meeting because we discovered there was a real desire for it. So whenever you're looking at hybrid, the opportunity to actually include time as a part of the both hybrid, both the in-person and the folks that are on the Zoom link to connect with each other would be helpful. It keeps the club together, I think.
Yeah. You know, coincidentally, we happen to have the president of Hilo Bay on the call today. So, Lorraine, you want to comment a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, thank you. But that's how we were working our in-person meetings, is that from 6:30 to 7 was breakfast, and that's when you socialize. So we decided to have the doors open at 6:30 to 7 for that socialization. And that's when you hear the jokes and ribbing one another and what have you. And then you go into the meeting. It's amazing with Zoom, you can mute everybody. So your meeting goes on really well. And then we have people who stay on after that keep kibitzing. You know, we just say it's available. So I think that has been a big help for us.
Okay. Yeah. Janice, you had something you wanted to add to that?
No, that's
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, if there isn't any more questions or people don't want to make any more comments, you certainly can add something to that if you want. We want to thank you guys for joining in. Doug, excellent job in presenting today. I mean, I knew you were going to hit it out of the park. Did you want to say one more thing?
I did, sir. Thank you so much.
Go for it.
Part of what I like to do, at least at the end, is if there was something that didn't get covered that you were anticipating would be covered, please let us know. The other thing is that I will send the PDF version of the slides to Benson, I guess,
Yeah.
so that they can be available for everybody that might want to look at them, because I spent at least 5 minutes putting them together. And it all happened fast. So,
Wow. Thank you, Doug, for your dedication and devotion to Rotary. That's awesome. And I want to thank you guys. I know that a lot of you, like me, tuned in to training this morning since just before 9 a.m. and we're closing in on lunchtime and 12 noon and still there. So that is great. I want to thank you guys for your devotion and dedication to Rotary. Because every time I see a lot of the same faces, but I see some new faces sometime too, is that as our Rotary IQ, which is the amount of knowledge we have about Rotary, as that increases, all right, that tends to get us more engaged. And one of the things I keep ringing the bell on is an informed Rotarian is an engaged Rotarian. So to the extent that we can continue to inform ourselves on everything that's Rotary, and then we can get that word out to everybody that's around us, whether Rotarian or not, that just helps everyone everywhere. So appreciate your attention and your attendance today. Up here at Volcano where I'm at, the sun's actually shining. I'm shocked. So I'm gonna go out there and get a piece of that while it's still there for the next 5 minutes or so. So thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody coming today.
Aloha, everyone.